Welcome back to your movies. The movie begins in a village called Green Valley, with two girls named Furiosa and Falk. Furiosa was picking an apple from a tree, and she and her sister were happy and joyful. Suddenly, Furiosa heard the sound of a gang nearby, and she became worried, informing her sister Falk about it. Furiosa decided to sneak in and attempt to disable the gang's motorcycles to prevent their escape. While doing so, one of the gang members saw her. Furiosa stabbed him with her knife and ran away quickly, using her whistle so her mother, Mary, could hear her. Mary immediately sensed her daughter was in danger and began moving toward the location with the village's people. At the same time, the gang members caught Furiosa and took her on the motorcycle. Mary and the villagers arrived too late, while Mary and her friend Vivian tried to catch up with them. Vivian managed to shoot one of the gang members with her gun, while Mary reached the other and killed him with her knife. Mary took the motorcycle and gave Vivian ammunition for her gun, hoping she would help return Furiosa safely. Mary managed to bring down another gang member, leaving only two members. As they paused to investigate who was pursuing them, Furiosa managed to grab the gasoline hose with her mouth. The gang took off again. Later at night, the motorcycle broke down due to gasoline leakage. Both of them feared that their pursuer would kill them. While they debated whether to abandon Furiosa or not, she managed to escape again. However, they eventually managed to capture her and brought her back to their village. Mary was still chasing them from a distance and shot another gang member from far away. Only the person carrying Furiosa, named Tao, remained. Tao returned to his village and met with Norton, the assistant to the village chief. Norton was surprised by Furiosa, as it was rare to find girls with such good health and appearance in the current world. Tao explained to Norton that he found Furiosa in a resource-rich village and would not reveal the village's location to anyone except their leader Dementus, so he could have the full credit. Norton approved and told him to meet with Dementus. While on the way, Furiosa tried to escape again by sabotaging the motorcycle, causing the driver serious injuries. Norton took Furiosa and went to Dementus to explain that the girl came from a resource-rich village. Dementus's men agreed on Furiosa, confirming that she was indeed in good health. Dementus began the process of bringing Tao, the one who captured Furiosa. However, Tao was on the brink of death and unable to speak or reveal to them the location of the village Furiosa came from. Dementus's men attempted to revive Tao and force him to draw a map of the village's location, but Furiosa intervened quickly and killed him. Dementus spoke to Furiosa calmly, saying, "Calm down, I will return you to your village tomorrow." However, his true intent was to use Furiosa to locate her village, attack it, and seize its resources. Dementus sent two of his men to take Furiosa to their tent and care for her, while Mary, disguised in the uniform of one of the gang members, sneaked into the camp with the intention of rescuing her daughter. She killed the men standing outside the tent and entered to kill the men inside as well. Only one woman remained, who appeared weak and begged for mercy from Mary. Mary chose to leave her and escape with her daughter. However, that woman planned to inform the gang about what had happened. The gang members fired at Mary's gasoline tank, which caused her clothing to catch fire. Mary managed to discard her burning clothes and continue to flee. After a few minutes, she stopped, realizing that the gang was pursuing her on motorcycles. Mary was injured by the flames in her back, but did not die and continued her escape. Despite the sandstorm that erased her motorcycle's trail, the gang had trained dogs that could smell the blood in her wounds. These dogs enabled the gang to track her path. Mary was prepared to sacrifice herself to ensure her daughter's survival. While on her journey, Furiosa continued her escape alone, heading toward the Green Valley village. She told her daughter that she would fight the gang and slow them down while ensuring her daughter's safety. Mary gave Furiosa seeds, instructing her to plant them in her village upon returning. Mary was determined to fight and killed a large number of the gang members. But in the end, she was captured. From a distance, Furiosa tried to return to save her mother, but saw her mother hanging from a tree and dying before her eyes. She wanted to save her, but Dementus remained silent and did not speak. Dementus forced her to watch her mother die before her eyes and captured her again. The next day, Dementus and his men headed out into the desert. One of Dementus's men was planning to escape from the gang. After capturing him, Dementus decided to punish him by cutting off his limbs with the use of 5 motorcycles. 20 of Dementus's men were killed until death, and the 5 remaining would ride the motorcycles to sever the limbs of the man attempting to escape. Dementus's men began fighting brutally, while Furiosa watched in horror from her cage. She realized that Dementus and his men were insane, and that the coming days would be very harsh. The next day, Dementus went into the desert to search for food and water, while Furiosa remained in her cage with an old man named the Historian. The Historian offered to teach Furiosa how to write, but she refused. That night, we saw Furiosa secretly teaching herself how to write, drawing stars on her hands to memorize the path back to the Green Valley village. After that, Dementus and his men encountered an injured, strange man lying on the road. The man believed he was in heaven. Dementus was surprised by his appearance and asked him where he was from. The man answered that he was from a city called City Dell, ruled by a man named Joe. The strange man explained that he had fought for Joe and believed that he had died and entered heaven because of it. Dementus realized from the conversation that City Dell had food and water and managed to convince the man to lead them there. After some time, Dementus and his men reached City Dell with the aim of taking control of it completely. Dementus addressed the people of the city saying, "I will liberate your city from the tyrant Joe. Cooperate with me, and you will see change." The people of the city lived in poverty and hunger, yet remained calm and did not respond to Dementus. Meanwhile, Joe's assistant contacted Dementus and commanded him to choose a person. Dementus chose a man who committed suicide without hesitation. Dementus understood that Joe's men were ready to sacrifice their lives to protect their leader. Joe's sons, Scrotus and Rictus, tell him he's going to die now. The attacks continued from Joe's men, leading to a brutal battle between the two groups. A large number of Dementus's men were killed in the fighting, while the survivors observed a truck transporting food and water leaving City Dell and heading toward a city known as Gas City. The truck was supposed to deliver food and water to Gas City in exchange for gas supplies. Dementus realized this was a golden opportunity for them, especially after he discovered that Gas City, the city of ammunition, and City Dell were all under Joe's rule. The next morning, the car was hijacked as it was leaving Gas City. Dementus's men successfully controlled it and entered the city. Dementus captured the leader of Gas City and cut off one of his fingers, then sent a message to Joe along with the leader. In the message, Dementus offered to negotiate with Joe, and Joe agreed. Dementus met Joe while holding the leader of Gas City and proposed a deal. He said, "Consider me now the leader of Gas City. Give me the food and water, and I will supply you with gas, as the former leader did. If you refuse, I will destroy Gas City entirely, as I have planted bombs in the city. If I don't return, the city will explode, and gas will no longer exist." Joe accepted the offer because he needed the gas, but he added a condition. "In return, I will take Furiosa and keep her. I will wait until she grows up, and I will marry her to have a healthy child, because my previous wives failed to give birth to a healthy child." Dementus thought about the offer because he loved Furiosa, and in the end, he accepted it. His priorities were now tied to Furiosa and the rule of Gas City. Afterward, Joe's men took Furiosa and placed her with Joe's wives. Although Joe's wives were healthy, None of them were able to give birth to a healthy child. Furiosa did not want to live in that place or become Joe's wife, so she began cutting her hair. Noticing that Rictus found her hair attractive, she turned her hair into a wig and began wearing it, thinking about how to escape. At night, Rictus kidnapped Furiosa from her bed with the intention of violating her. Furiosa noticed the star drawings on her hands and quickly pulled her hand away, escaping in panic. She ran as fast as she could while Rictus held onto her hair, nearly going insane. His brother Scrotus came and asked, "What's going on?" Rictus did not want anyone to know about his intentions with Furiosa, fearing that Joe would kill him if he learned of it. So, he kept his secret to himself. Furiosa remained hiding under them as she tried to endure these hardships. The years passed, and Furiosa continued to live in the city with the men, pretending to be mute and refusing to speak to anyone. No one discovered her to this day. Joe's men discovered the disabled vehicle and began pulling it with a crane. The car was about to collapse, and there was a person who would die. However, Furiosa intervened courageously and managed to save the situation. Scrotus respected Furiosa for her brave actions. Rictus was on the verge of discovering Furiosa, but fortunately, Scrotus intervened and ordered the construction of a large and fast truck to transport food, water, and allow them to escape. After the truck was built, Furiosa discovered that the person driving it would be Jack, so she hid some equipment and supplies under the truck. Jack then began driving the truck and jumped out of the city of Setal. Furiosa remained hidden underneath it. However, suddenly, highway bandits appeared and targeted the truck in an attempt to seize its contents. The truck suffered severe damage from underneath as the bandits planted explosives under it. Furiosa worked quickly to repair the damage with her characteristic bravery while enduring the effects of the bandits' explosives. She fought back against anyone that came near her with force. Meanwhile, the number of bandits was increasing as they used parachutes and aerial maneuvers, launching bombs at the truck. The battle escalated, with Jack killing as many as he could, while Furiosa revealed herself to confront the bandits. She showed incredible combat skill and managed to eliminate many of the highway bandits during the fight. Eventually, they managed to wipe out all the bandits completely. Only Jack and Furiosa were left from the truck after the battle. After the battle, Furiosa raised her weapon at Jack, expressing her desire to take over as the driver. But in that moment, Jack was momentarily unbalanced, and she fell off the truck into the desert alone. A few minutes later, Jack returned to her and told her that even if he gave her the truck, there would be nowhere to escape to, because the surrounding areas were either under the control of the sky or ruled by Dementus. Jack was impressed by Furiosa's bravery, especially considering how she managed to save the situation during the battle with the highway bandits. He offered her a deal: to work with him as an assistant, and in return, he would teach her everything about driving in difficult terrain and how to maintain her survival for as long as possible. Furiosa accepted the offer and lowered her weapon. She and Jack became a team working together on various missions. One day, they took the truck to the city of Ammunition, where it became apparent that the city relies on slave laborers to produce large quantities of ammunition. Jack was handing out food and water while taking the bullets and explosives. The leader of the city of Ammunition spoke to Jack, saying, "Dementus is a very mad man, and because of his madness, destruction occurs in Gas City. In the end, even though he is the cause of it all, I want you to ask Joe to speak to him about this matter." He handed Jack a rifle he had requested. Jack paid no attention to his words, left, and gave the rifle to Furiosa to help her defend herself during her escape. After a few days, Jack and Furiosa headed to Gas City to trade food and water for gas. The city was currently in chaos due to Dementus's poor administration. Jack spoke to Furiosa saying, The chaos here is the result of Joe and his assistants. They never blame themselves for anything. He then spoke about the food they were given and added, "You give us the worst food and water you have. We can barely survive with this. I want to organize a meeting with Joe and all the leaders to discuss this issue." Jack did not oppose his words and agreed. Meanwhile, the desperate residents of the city attacked the truck, hoping to find food. Due to the chaos, they were able to seize the food and drink. However, Jack could not get the gas and quickly returned to Joe, reporting the chaos happening in Gas City. Joe's sons were angry and urged Joe to attack Gas City and kill Dementus. Joe agreed to the suggestion. Jack and Furiosa proceeded to Ammunition City to participate in the war against Dementus. Furiosa was planning her revenge on Dementus, who had killed her mother. Jack asked her, "What is this drawing?" Furiosa replied, "This is the star path leading to the village where I was born. I'll tell you my whole story." Jack offered to help her reach her village, and as they talked, feelings of affection began to grow between them. The next day, they were heading to Ammunition City, but stopped halfway. Jack observed that all the motorcycles were being loaded onto the truck. Furiosa sat with the vehicles, and one of Joe's men rode beside her. Furiosa showed her surprise at the change, but realized it was part of a pre-planned escape. They reached Ammunition City, which appeared deserted. Dementus and his men had gathered there, and Furiosa saw an opportunity to return to help Jack and take revenge on Dementus. She attempted to kill Dementus but failed, and Dementus retaliated with a missile. Fortunately, Furiosa was unharmed, but fell from her position to the ground. Jack destroyed the spot where Dementus had stood, saving the situation, while Dementus managed to escape death by saving himself at the last moment. Jack's truck got stuck in a large pit and was on the verge of falling into it, but Furiosa arrived just in time and saved him. They both escaped in a vehicle while their entire team was killed. Meanwhile, Dementus was chasing Jack's and Furiosa's car with a large number of his men. Using shortcut paths through the hills, he managed to reach them, overturned their car, and captured them both. Dementus was furious because they had killed many of his men. His initial plan had been to lead an army to conquer the city of Al City Del, but Jack and Furiosa destroyed his plans. As punishment, Dementus decided to capture Furiosa. He tied her up to prevent her from escaping while his men tortured Jack. They dragged him behind their motorcycle while the dogs tore at his body. The torture continued until he was dead. Dementus then went to check on Furiosa, finding that she had cut off her hands and escaped. We see her riding a motorcycle and pulling away from them. Dementus and his men prepared to chase her, but Furiosa had managed to destroy their vehicle by damaging its wheels. Dementus's men pursued her, but she managed to escape them. After a long distance, her motorcycle ran out of gas, and she continued on foot until she lost consciousness. She later awoke in a cave beneath the city of Al City Del. When she opened her eyes, she saw an old woman and a number of human corpses. Terrified, she fled and returned to Joe to tell him about everything that had happened. She recounted her battle with Dementus, who intended to conquer the city of Al City Del. Joe became angry and ordered his men to prepare for battle with Dementus. He shared his plan with them. They would pretend to travel to the city of Gas, while Furiosa would ultimately kill Dementus. When Dementus saw them heading toward the city of Gas, he believed they were unprotected. However, this was actually a trap set by Joe. He sent a few vehicles as bait, which soon turned back toward the city of City Dale, leading to the beginning of a prolonged and devastating war that lasted several days. During this time, Furiosa used the time to craft a mechanical hand for herself to replace the hands she lost. The war continued, with Joe's army gaining the upper hand as Dementus retreated due to heavy losses. Furiosa took a truck with a shortage of wheels and drove it toward the battlefield. There, she encountered Joe's men, who needed the truck's wheels and fuel to pursue Dementus. She offered the wheels and the truck's gasoline to them. They installed the wheels on their own vehicles and prepared for the final confrontation. However, Scrotus and Rictus continued arguing about who would drive the car, while Furiosa was preoccupied with them. At that moment, she stole the car and took off alone, intending to kill Dementus. Dementus split his men into 3 groups to scatter Furiosa and prevent her from targeting any one group specifically. Furiosa chased one of the groups, thinking that Dementus was actively hunting her. She drove slowly behind him, which made him feel a false sense of hope, even though he had none. Eventually, Dementus grew tired, stopped his car, and got out. As Furiosa got out of her car and revealed herself, she asked him, "Do you think you know me?" He did not recognize her and attempted to stab her in the legs, but she struck him quickly in the face, knocking him unconscious. While tying him up, she recalled what he had done to her 15 years ago, killing her mother in front of her eyes. Dementus said to her, "I don't remember you or that memory." She angrily struck him again and said, "You destroyed my childhood." She raised her weapon at him and he replied, "If you kill me, I'll die and won't feel anything. That's weak torture." She said coldly, "It doesn't matter. The important thing is that I avenged myself." Dementus mocked her words, replying, "You'll live with the torment of your memories while I'll be dead. If you kill me, it won't free you." Furiosa was furious and struck him repeatedly until he finally remembered her and said, "I'm glad you grew up and became like me." She angrily retorted, "I'm not like you in any way." He said, "On the contrary, you're a copy of me." In the end, Furiosa killed him with fire, and it is said she did it either the same way she killed Jack, or by a tree, as she killed her mother. However, the most believable story is that she left Dementus alive in the city of City Dell, planting a tree over his body, allowing him to live in that state until he eventually died. Please, if you like my content, support me with a like and subscribe to the channel. Have a nice day.